Ouch. Ouch. This is Kneon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
I didn't hit him.
Welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is going to be a conversation about how important comic books are to the rest of the world.
Yeah, well, come on. And I don't think anybody's surprised with this.
I don't think anybody's surprised, but this is kind of a painful reminder of where comics are in the pecking order, especially now, especially during these trying times, trademark.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's saying that. Man, they got those commercials out fast. Did you ever notice that?
Yeah, how did they get all the trying times commercials put together in like a week?
Yeah, I know. It was like the week or two after everything was shutting down. And these trying times, I was like, wow, that was very quickly done. And you're in shutdown. How the hell did you pull that off?
Right. Like, how did you do this? It's almost as if the ad agencies knew what was going to happen.
Or it's almost as if they just didn't care and went and filmed it anyway.
Yeah, right.
So
comicbookresources.com pointed out and a survey. They pointed out a survey talking about how artists are the least essential, the most non-essential job during these trying times. So the survey was commissioned by the Sunday Times. The artist role topped a list that also featured telemarketers, social media PR specialists, business consultants, and human resource managers. 71% of those asked believed that artists were the most non-essential of jobs, with results having been collated from approximately 1,000 participants.
Only 1,000 people thought this, but still. I gotta tell you though, as an art teacher, this is something, I'm gonna talk about this for a second, then we'll go look at the survey. As an art teacher, this is something people don't understand or realize. They just said artists in general, but people don't understand how important art is in their everyday lives. And I remember asking kids, like, do you think art's important? You see art all the time? No. I'm like, well, do you wear clothes? Yeah, art. Do you ride in a car? Yeah, art. Do you watch TV? Yeah, art. Do you eat food that you buy in packaging because you like it because of packaging? Yeah, art. It's like, you can go on. Pretty much everything you do, everything in your day, paint colors, everything are designed by artists. So art is actually probably one of the most essential things. You just don't understand or realize this.
Well, okay, so you're on the same wavelength as this Singaporean comedian said, having seen the survey results. Singapore.
Sorry.
Dancing Lions.
Whoever sent that, I forget who it was.
Flashy. Yeah,
our kids just love that thing. Anyway, they play with it all the time.
Anyway, he shared his thoughts on how people viewed artists, positing that if artists and the art they create are so unimportant, those who hold that belief should delete their Netflix accounts, cancel Spotify, and sell their TVs. He also challenged them to stop showing their kids an iPad to occupy them.
So I'm telling you, music, yes, music, theater, all that art.
Yep, stop listening to music, et cetera, et cetera. People don't realize how important art is. Now, I used
to try to make sure kids understood that.
Yeah, like everything. Even the microphone that we're speaking in was designed by some kind of an artist.
Right. Yeah, and the color that's on it was designed by an artist. I mean, art and music and stuff are just vital to everyday life, and most people don't realize that. They don't think about, how they think art, like, oh, someone who draws pictures. They don't realize how important it is. Storyboard artists lay out your movies. It's just, it goes on and on. It's integral to life. As we know it.
Some artists are. Now, I'm going to argue that comic book artists are becoming less and less essential as the comic book industry becomes less and less important to entertainment.
I agree with you there, because entertainment, that's exactly it. Because other things, there's never been more choices than we have now of what you can sit and watch and how you can be entertained. And it used to be, you only had a few channels, you read the comic books, sometimes they didn't even have TV. And, that's not the case now.
Yeah, so, it's kind of a blow, because artists already, look, I know how it is. You already have low self-esteem. You've got people telling you your whole life, like, why are you throwing your life away?
Oh my God, yes.
Why you have a pipe dream? You shouldn't be, who do you think you are? That's fun and all, but you should go become a doctor.
Go work at Arby's.
My
grandma actually told him that.
Oh my God, yeah, I know. It's interesting too, though, because I've talked about this, a social media manager and PR specialist. I worked in marketing for years, and I can vouch the marketing department is almost always the first department to get cut when there's a layoff.
True.
They turn advertising off. The thing is, these companies need to stay out there and keep advertising even during these trying times, but they don't.
That's probably the first thing they should be spending money on, and then they don't. They like, oh, we don't need that. And then they wonder why 6-7 months later, they're like, we don't have any business. What the hell happened?
Yeah, because there's a long tail on that. But this is why I think you're going to see a lot of these Twitter social media managers get gone here because they're running out of money to pay them. But I'm gonna posit that comic book artists now, especially with the industry being in the condition it is, are probably some of the least essential of the least essential employees right now. Because we're looking at, Marvel put pencils down on a third of its output for May and June, again, trying to save money. They're trying to save money. We're looking at, where people are focusing their attention on right now. And look, the San Diego Comic-Con, the San Diego Convention Center is now a homeless shelter.
Well, even beyond that, let's be honest here. Most conventions have now just become pop culture conventions. I mean, they might have comic books there, except for a handful like Baltimore and some other places. They aren't focused on comics anymore.
No, and that's it. That's what's sad. And I've talked about this in multiple videos where in the geek totem pole, comics culture, the geek pole, comic books are at the very bottom for most people. I mean, we're talking video games are above comics, tabletop gaming now is above comics, TV and movies, absolutely. Pretty much everything else, anime, everything else has become more popular. So it's not surprising to see all of these people kind of get laid off in the comic book industry implode because it's such a weird thing anyway. I mean, to go buy comics, you have to go find a shop, a mom and pop shop.
Well, not so much anymore, which is another problem. You can just get them online, and then is it like it's still comic, but sometimes is it considered more digital medium anymore than it is print as time goes on.
Well, I think that's what's I think more comics are going to go to digital for the single issues, and then they'll have the graphic novels. But even then, people just buy those through Amazon.
Right. I prefer the graphic novels honestly because a lot of people don't. That's okay. I just like them because if I'm going to sit there and it's easier just to have it one big chunk and be able to read the whole thing than it is to have all these little issues lying around. To me, I mean, I'm not everybody, obviously.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, even last year, before these trying times trademark began, people were saying, hey, the comic book industry's in decline. YouTube has been saying it for years.
Yep.
Years.
Did they get canceled over it?
I don't think
Did they get harassed on Twitter and told that they were alt-right Nazis?
I don't know if Megan Goodson is an alt-right Nazi or not. Hopefully not.
Are we allowed to say that? Are we going to get in trouble?
We're not going to get in trouble.
Okay.
It's alt-right Yahtzee. But now the general public is catching on that the comic book industry is in bad shape. Comic book industry shops face game-changing adjustments due to COVID-19 pandemic. It started before that. But this is just a normie newspaper.
It hasn't started. It's been going for years. This
yeah,
isn't a new thing.
You haven't been paying attention. This is just a normie mom and pop newspaper, and they're like, hey, comic shops are in bad shape. Did
what
you know
happened?
that?
Oh my god! Here's the funny thing, and you can vouch for this. How many times were we at conventions and people were like, wait, they still make comic books?
This has been going on for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
I am not kidding. Like, we would literally do comic book conventions. Okay. Supposedly mostly pop culture conventions.
They used to be comic book, now they're more pop culture.
Yeah, so I would take a lot of, the Disney comics that we were working on or whatever, and you would have somebody walk by, and it would be like a regular, just normal person on the street, not a comic book fan, go like, oh my god, Disney comics, I didn't know they still made comic books.
Yeah, often. When we were selling our own comics, they make comic books still?
And what was shocking is we go to these comic book conventions, now pop culture conventions, and you would only see a handful of people have actual comic books for sale. I mean, seriously, you'd go to Artist Alley, and it was mostly, I call it like a geeky flea market.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was like all these tchotchkes.
And you're afraid to make eye contact with people? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but like, okay, follow me along here. You've all been there. You've been in Artist Alley or you've been by Artist Alley. We've done both, been in and been by. And when you go down Artist Alley, it's like, especially in certain conventions, it's like you make eye contact. You're afraid to make eye contact because you make eye contact to like pounce. And you're like, please buy my stuff. Please buy my stuff. And this is coming from somebody who's been in Artist Alley as well. And it's just like, I don't do that. Though. I try not to make eye contact with people too much because I don't want to make them feel like they're being pushy because walking down Artist Alley can be something.
It's like walking down. I mean, I'm not trying to say this in a derogatory way, but it almost is like walking down a street full of beggars because well, speaking of, okay, here's a juxtaposition. You go to Baltimore Comic-Con, there were so many beggars on the street going into the convention center. But when you get into the convention center and you go to Artist Alley, it feels like the same thing. Like, if you make eye contact, it will be expected that you buy their comic, even if you have no interest in it whatsoever, because they're giving you the puppy dog eyes. Like, you know, I gotta make my table back.
We've been Artist Alley, and we tried very hard not to be that way, because we've actually been there. We've had tables, and people next to us were so desperate to sell stuff, they'd actually come over to our table while we were set up and try to pull people away from our table to their table.
Yeah,
it's terrible. Actually, if we have a choice, we pay for a full-on vendor table.
Yeah.
Because it's nowhere near as bad as Artist Alley.
That's yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but with us, yeah, it's like we got to a point where it's like I'd rather hang out with the other vendors, the other publishers, than hang out in Artist Alley, because it is very sad. It's very, and again, it shows there's way more stuff, there are more artists than there are people to consume comic book art at this point. Everybody who reads comics pretty much wants to make comics, and especially the convention scene. You do the convention scene, it's just one big, hate to use the term circle jerk, but it is. It's like people making comics, buying other people's comics, and you see this on crowd.
They'll hoping they'll buy your comics.
Yeah.
I've mentioned many times, I always say about, you said the incredible shrinking pie, that's with the comic industry, and the problem is that it's very incestuous, and everybody, basically their go-to method on how to grow your comic is to follow other comics, and then basically they'll follow you out of pity, and it's just like, the pie, this keeps shrinking, and you need a bigger pie, you need to expand your audience out. It's not working this way, that needs to be a much bigger pie, and unfortunately there's way more creators every year than there probably are people that are going to actually just buy things. So, but the internet makes it so much easier too to be a creator. So it's a really good thing. Everybody has a chance, but it's also a really bad thing because everybody has a chance, but there's still not that many people knowing you're out there.
Yeah, we're going to talk about where things are going and why conventions, I think, are pretty much going to be non-essential. Yeah, conventions are going to be non-essential. But just to show you, I mean, comic shops closing. Rich Johnson, Bleeding Cool, he's actually doing like quasi actual news now.
Wow.
Because he has to, because I think he realizes because look.
Hey, so were some of the other blogs that usually were being pissy. They're starting to try to have more newsworthy stories and try to appeal to the fans more.
It's like, oh shit, we better straighten up our act, or we're gonna wind up like Newsarama and just be a tab on some video game site, because we're non-essential. So if the comic book artists themselves are non-essential, the journalists who cover them are really, really, really non-essential. But yeah, lots of comic shops going out of business again. I'm not taking delight in that. I'm just showing where.
No, because we like comic shops.
Yeah, showing where they are in the pecking order. But this is interesting. This came up yesterday. Your boy Zach did a video on it. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm just like, well, yeah, whatever. But AT&T, we talk about them. They own DC Comics. And we did another video about how they're selling off their video game division. Mm-hmm. Video games are way more essential, way more profitable than comic books, and they're selling that off.
Well, we saw it with Disney too. Disney did the exact same thing. Because heck, it's easier to they're gonna still own the characters. Let somebody else do all the work. Let them license it, and you get paid. And you get paid when the games sell, and you don't have to do the work.
Yep.
I mean,
So that's probably going to happen here pretty soon. They're talking. They think it might be Activision might buy them. Or somebody. Now, I think AT&T will keep the DC characters. They'll just.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what they're going to do. They're going to license them. Now, they might sell off some of the other titles that aren't theirs. But if you can license the stuff out and still make money and not have to have the overhead and do the work, why wouldn't you? Disney has already done it.
So here's what's interesting. This your boy Zach did a video on. I didn't know these existed. They're going all in on HBO Max. They've actually got some of their top creators. They've got Jim Lee doing covers for HBO Max promotional comics.
Okay.
And they're really, really cheesy.
HBO,
I watched.
Oh, come on.
I'm like, come on, guys! Like you
First
had us.
Elmer Fudd, and now this.
And then Gone with the Wind. Well, they're bringing Gone with the Wind back.
No, I thought they were pulling it again.
They're pulling it again.
I don't know. I could be wrong. But
I can't keep track of it. But we were like kind of singing
in and out kind of thing.
I know we were. Yeah, right. we were kind of singing the praises of HBO Max, and now I'm like, what are you doing?
I really appreciate their Godzilla. Extended their Godzilla collection. I appreciated their Ghibli and then trying to get anime. And it was funny because all these billboards started showing up with the things we said, including the redhead thing. Yeah. And I was like, I appreciate that. Thank you. And then they do other stuff like this. And why is it always superhero stuff?
They've got a Ginger Elastigirl.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
So there you go. But they're doing these free comics. they're putting like, you know, bigger DC names on these you know, promotional products, which has to be groan inducing for the people working at DC Comics. But again, you know, it's either this or you're not working.
They work for them. What are they going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do? But reminds me of DC did this back in the 80s.
Oh, the Radio Shack.
I don't know if anybody remembers these. I remember these.
I vaguely remember these.
Because this is, you know, I was huge in the comics, and, you know, the Radio Shack guy would come to our school and give us these Tandy computer comic books. And that was like, ooh, wow, we're getting free comics. And the whole thing was like a commercial, just a giant commercial for Tandy computers, because we had a Tandy computer in our class, and that's what this was all about. And that's what this is all about, too. It's like, hey, kids, free comics. We got Jim Lee drawing covers. You go subscribe to HBO Max.
Yeah, but what are they about, though? Are they going to be about the movies and shows coming to HBO? I mean, what are they about?
Okay, so I watched...
Synergy.
I watched Zach's video.
Oh, really?
And it's awful. There's a dog named Max, and if you come in contact with the dog named Max, you get superpowers for no reason whatsoever.
Okay, then. And that applies to HBO
Max, the dog.
That's okay.
So HBO Max. Yeah.
So I thought they were going to take us into welcome to the world of whatever HBO product they're promoting today or something like that. Like you're sucked in and now you're part of this, you know, or that.
I think they're free on Comixology. I might check them out just to see how bad they actually are, But again, this shows like where comics are in the pecking order.
I mean, I give them credit for trying to be different, and I give them credit for the fact that they're like, you know, hey, we already own DC Comics. Let's use that for something that actually makes, you know, help us make money. But I think this is kind of sorry. I mean, I appreciate the redhead.
It's sorry.
But
it's sorry.
No.
It's a very sorry. But that just shows the mindset of this company. Like you said, we own DC Comics. Let's use them to make some actual money. HBO Max is what we want to promote. Let's use DC Comics to promote that. And then, by the way, when we're done with them, we'll just shut them down and license the characters out.
Because if they were so thinking DC was going to make them all kinds of money and it was really important, why would they take their top people off of those books and put them on this? You know?
I don't know. I don't think Jim Lee drew. I think he just did the cover. I'll have to look into it. But again, it seems like a waste of resources unless you're AT&T and you're looking at this like, you know, comics are non-essential, but we can make them as part of marketing. That's what we're gonna do. It's just
even from a marketing standpoint, and this is coming from people who worked in marketing. This is not a very.
It's lame.
I'm sorry. You're not gonna get your bang for your buck on this one.
No.
I really don't think so. You're gonna get people initially interested because of like, what the hell is this? But it's not long term gonna do you much good.
It's not gonna do.
You're better off having, you know, good products and putting good things out there and letting people say, hey, did you see it? Because it's really good. Like your Godzilla collection is awesome. And, you know, my mom, I think they had Turner Classic movies on there. My mom's all interested in that because she's like, oh, wow, all the old stuff. I would love to have that. You know, focus on the things people actually want. Most people, comics are already dying. Most people don't want it. I understand you want to use DC because you already have it. And you want to make sure people understand that DC's still there.
Yeah, well, that's it, because
come on.
We're talking about DC. They're shutting down. Supposedly, they're going to be shutting down their standalone DC Universe streaming app to you know. And I think that's part of what this is for, is to try to push those people over to HBO Max. But DC's doing its own virtual convention now too, and we're going to talk about that because that's what is changing right now. Is that comic book conventions are becoming non-essential. Comic book shops, unfortunately, are becoming non-essential. Comic book publishers even are kind of, depending on their business model, are going to be non-essential. And what's going to happen is the people who I think are going to survive, not like right away, but you're going to have some kind of an online presence. And YouTube has blown up in the last couple of years, and it sort of has eliminated the need for, you know, doing all these conventions. Now,
right, because you can go to a panel at a convention, or you can just go watch the person's YouTube.
Yeah, and you still get that one-on-one interaction. You look at guys like, you know, Ethan Van Sciver, who's, you know, every other day he's talking to his fans.
Right, and you could you know, actually, you know, super chat or whatever, and actually get to talk to him, you know.
And that's more interaction than you're going to get at a convention. If you're trying to, you know, especially if you're dealing with a more popular creator, you might get 30 seconds of their time, you know, and they sign your book and send you on your way, and that's it, and you get, you know. But this is what's probably going to happen, and I have to wonder how many of these conventions that are down are going to be down for the count, that they're not going to come back because it doesn't make financial sense.
Well, they just canceled Star Wars Celebration for this year. Now they're not doing a virtual one. They're just waiting until 2022 to do the actual show. So, but then we had San Diego Comic-Con's going virtual.
Yeah. I mean,
but this, I mean, like, we have DC. Make sure people don't forget Virtual Con.
Again, this is right in the.
It's way cheaper.
Yeah, this is the same thing that they're doing with the comic books.
Does anybody care about the Arrowverse though now and the DC, whatever? Because there's so much shit going on Twitter. Everybody's canceling everybody else and all that crap. Does anybody even really, care anymore that they're gonna come?
I don't know. I don't know because they're trying to cancel. Twitter's trying to cancel Steve Amell.
I know, and he's Arrow.
He's
so
Arrow.
I'm like, how's this gonna work?
I'm just thinking this could go so wrong because there's a petition out there to try to get Hartley Sawyer back on Flash. What if all these Hartley Sawyer fans show, and there's thousands and thousands of names that have signed this petition. What if they all show up for this? Because this is supposed to promote the Arrowverse and CW. Or what if you get some really salty Batwoman fans show
exactly.
up?
That's exactly what can happen.
This could be catastrophic. I mean, this actually could backfire. Because it used to be these companies could set up a booth at a convention and then they could still kind of keep the fans at arm's length. They would do a panel or something, but they get a couple of questions, but they could control it. And with the internet, I don't think they realize, like, you're going to get all these people with all these questions, and they might not be questions you want to answer. We've seen it with video game companies.
Yeah.
We've seen it with, anime places where they would jump in, especially the Vic Mignogna situation. They were jumping in and asking some hardball questions, and eventually they had to shut the chats down. This could definitely be, something that they're not prepared for. This one-on-one communication.
That's my first thought. I was thinking about this, and I'm like, okay, that's a cool idea, but they're focusing on Arrowverse and things that are on CW, and there's a lot of controversy about a lot of these things. How's that going to work out? And that was my first. But I mean, like you said, you can go to regular con and have the same people show up. So I mean, it's the same situation, just online. It's just people can get to it a lot easier when it's free, and there's no paywall, and it's online.
Yeah, so, wow. Popular now. Hollywood reportedly preparing for CGI sex scenes to combat COVID-19.
What?
I don't know. So I'm not even going to click on that.
No, you're right. You're not going to click on that.
We're not going to click on that. So anyway, very interesting though, but this again shows where comics are in the pecking order. Comic books are not important. That's not to say
we know where the pecking order is. It's in Hollywood with their CGI sex scenes.
Oh, CGI peckers.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, we know that comics, to these big corporations, and I think Disney's going to follow suit. I absolutely think Disney's going to follow suit. I've been saying for years. I know some people on the Disney publishing side that are like,
you're lying. You don't know anybody.
I'm lying.
Just
obviously.
Go ask the internet.
Yeah, go ask the internet. But they've been saying for years that if Disney could dip out on Marvel Comics and just license those comics out, they probably would. It would save them so much money.
They've canceled way more profitable things in the past. So
it's coming. Now that doesn't mean you can't make money as a comic book artist.
It's coming.
It's coming.
So was the other thing.
Oh, no. But it doesn't mean that you can't make money as a comic book creator. It's just that you're going to have to rely more on yourself. You're going to have to rely more on your audience. There's going to have to be more direct communication. You can't rely on conventions anymore because they're drying up. You can't rely on publishers anymore because I think they're going to be cutting titles or going out of business.
You couldn't rely on them before because if you weren't the right type of person, you might as well forget it anyway.
Yep. So this is going to be survival of I guess those who can build their own platform fast enough. And unfortunately, a lot of comic book artists don't have the interpersonal skills. Again, if you've been to Artist Alley, you'll find that a lot of these creators, they might be very, very talented, but they don't have the skill set it's going to take to cultivate an audience beyond drawing well.
That's
it takes
true.
more than that. So.
And sometimes you can be really talented, but it takes you too long. And there's a lot of reasons. So
yeah. So we're going to wrap this one up?
Yep.
Okay, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Thinking about printing your own comic books, graphic novel, or manga? We recommend our friends over at PrintNinja. We've been using PrintNinja as long as they've been printing comics, and both the quality and price is excellent. Mention CLOWNFISH TV and get an additional 5% overrun of your book order quantity printed for free. For free! That's free books, people. Just mention this offer on the phone or in the additional information box on the quote request form. That's printninja.com or click on the link in the description below. Hey guys, thanks for watching CLOWNFISH TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.